So welcome to today's MTD podcast. I am at CTPE Limited today, a precision engineering company in Mildenhall, a company with quite a reputation. We've been here a few years previously looking at some of the machines that have been installed. Today I'm going to be talking to Alex Taylor, who's a director of the company and has been for some years now. We're going to be talking about their involvement in the medical sector, of course, with what's been going on recently within that industry, and also some of their investment plans. I mean, a business that really is growing, and we'll find out a little bit more about that as we go through the show. Alex, welcome to today's podcast. Maybe for our viewers, you could give us a little bit of the history of the company. It's always good to know where you came from before we know where you're going.
Okay, so CTPE was started by my father approximately 30 years ago now. He just started as a sole trader, offering small volume production, low batch and prototyping work. And then sort of gradually over the years, we see the introduction of CNC machinery, grew as a company, moved through some larger premises, and here we are today, where we are now. Now
we're in Mildenhall in Suffolk. When we travel all around the country, but we're here pretty infrequently. Is there as much industry over in this area as some other parts of the country? And I'd take the answer to that is probably going to be no. But what are the critical industries that you're servicing that are based around this location?
So I mean, the backbone of our customers is in the scientific and medical industries, of which there is some within this location, but also obviously in other places of the country as well. And we also, in more recent years, have sort of expanded out into the electronics and defence industries as well. Defence industry being, in the last couple of years, one that's grown very, very quickly for us.
I mean, my points, I suppose, are going towards the fact that if we went to the Midlands, you know, every 200-300 metres there's a precision engineering company, or maybe a bit more distant than that. But round here, have you got much competition?
There is a few other subcontractors in the sort of Cambridgeshire area, which is not too far from where we are. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're not as densely populated with machine shops as what the Midlands and possibly Northern England would be.
And how would that affect you when you're trying to find staff?
Yeah, I mean, it can be challenging. I think it's challenging for everyone in this industry at the moment to find good staff. We've got a good programme of apprenticeships and got a proven track record of taking apprentices on and keeping them in the job as well. So they're not just leaving once they've finished their apprenticeship. You know, we've actually given them full-time permanent positions, and they've stayed.
Now, I'm really impressed to be here today, Alex, and thank you for the invitation to see some of the new machines that you've had installed and talk about some of the ones that are just around the corner as well. But tell us about what's happening within the medical sector for you and how you've become so busy in recent weeks.
Okay, so obviously, given the outbreak of the coronavirus and the pandemic that's going on, one of our largest medical OEM customer, that we've been supplying for 25, 30 years nearly, they saw a huge demand for their products, which are diagnostic equipment for intensive care, and obviously with that huge order requirement from them means that their suppliers are also under the same requirement. So basically they came to us with a list of parts that we'd previously been making in not such large volume, and then we had to ramp up production. Basically, that they asked us if we could make these quantities, so that's what we chose to do.
When you look at your machine shop, you're very well equipped to be able to adapt quickly. Some of the machines you've got, sliding head technology, high-speed brother machining centres. Now your Belia Y-axis lathe. They're quite important. It's quite important, isn't it, for a company to be able to be agile and have machines of different technologies to be able to produce parts in volumes.
Absolutely. I mean, we always try to invest in the latest and most productive equipment that we can get our hands on. Obviously, we're always looking to do sort of new technologies. So sort of 4 years ago, we branched into slide and head turning, which was new to us. Previously, we'd only ever done fixed head. And that's opened up new avenues for us and also allowed us to increase our production further. And then obviously, like you said, the BT30 machines from Brother, they've been a fantastic addition, going from the BT40 machines that we previously had the BT30 brothers are reducing the cycle times by 50% on more or less every component, as a lot of them are aluminium. And yeah, it's just that they've been a game changer for us.
And it's been quite the reverse for you compared to a lot of companies that have been shut down now, maybe for 8-10 weeks, and maybe even a few more weeks to go. You've sort of bucked the trend, haven't you? No furloughing of staff. In fact, you can't get enough, can you?
Absolutely. With the situation that we're in at the moment, we're so busy. We certainly haven't been furloughing anyone, and we'll probably be looking for additional staff later on this year, I should think. Yeah.
And what are the challenges you face as subcontract engineers these days, Alex, compared to maybe when you first started or when your dad first started the company 30 years ago?
Pressures from customer to cost reduction is always one that that I'm sure many other companies deal with as well, and shorten the lead times. That's probably been the biggest thing for us over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, where we've been on our sort of high growth and high investment path that we've been on. Customers' lead times expectations are very short. They're 1 to 2 weeks a lot of the time. And obviously we have to make sure that we're flexible enough and have the correct equipment that enables us to respond to our customers' needs as and when.
And what would you have to do in those lead times? Would you have to do so much as help them design a product, or is it simply a case of here's a drawing, we need 500 of these in 14 days?
Yeah, it's more of a case of we need the parts. They come to us the parts. We don't really get involved too much on the design side unless they specifically want us to work on a project, which we have done as well.
Your investment plans here, Alex, it's quite evident to see. Of course, this is a podcast, so we can't see it on camera, but if you've seen some of the videos on the MTD CNC channel, if you're listening, you'll be able to see just how much space there isn't here at the moment in the company, and that's a good thing, because it's been as a result of your investment and the growth. What are your plans to keep on this path of success, Alex? How are you going to expand the business?
Well, we've got plans drawn up for an extension to our unit to the rear, 2 stories high, and that's going to give us approximately another 1,000 square foot of machining space, with an additional 1,000 square foot of office space as well. And that's also going to allow us to sort of reclaim some of our existing office and assembly space downstairs for production as well. So that is we've completely outgrown a unit we're in realistically, but the extension is going to sort of allow us to stay here for probably another 5 to 10 years. So that's what we're planning on doing.
And let's now talk about some of the technologies that we have touched on, but we'll maybe go into in a little bit more detail. Sliding head machining, your Tornos machines that you've got here, not just 1 but 2 now. This was the first for you, going from fixed head across to this type of machining. What was the driving factor, Alex?
Volume, basically. The volume of the parts that we had been previously making was just increasing all the time, and we just found ourselves struggling to cope with fixed head machinery. So we basically knew that the only way to manufacture these components in a bigger volume would be to go into sliding head, and that's what we did with Tornos, and approximately coming up 4 years now.
Is there a big learning curve in this? Because I know we talk a lot about going from 1 fixed to sliding head. Sometimes companies are apprehensive to change the methods of manufacture, change the way they look at their business. Would you advise against that? Would you say that this is something that is quite easy to get to grips with?
Yeah, I would say that it is fairly straightforward. I mean, obviously there is differences and there is things that have to be learned, but the service and support we've had from Tornos, their training when we had the first machine was very good. And, by the time we've had that for 2 years and we bought our second Tornos, we were sort of really comfortable with it by then, and we didn't really sort of require that much training on the second machine because we were, we'd built up an experience over the 2 years.
Can you see how they've managed to adapt their technologies to be able to fit in businesses like yours? Long gone are the days where you had to have 20,000, 30,000 off of components, aren't they? That's history now. These are quite adaptable machines. They're quite powerful as well. In fact, the Tornos machines you were mentioning to me earlier have got 10 kilowatts of power on both the front and the back spindle. So they're capable as well as adaptable, aren't they? Absolutely,
yeah. Very flexible machine. Whether it's high volume, which they can do, or like you alluded to, that we can we can equally set up parts and only run sort of a few hundred off and it still be economical. Tornos have worked hard to make the make the machines quicker to set, and basically that's the payback there, that you can now do smaller volume on that started machine, but still get the accuracy and all the other benefits of unmanned running like you do with a sliding head.
And with that being the case of those two machines, your next machine that we've come to look at as well today is the Belia 620YS, a bigger machine, much bigger bar capacity, still with a Y-axis, still with the ability to do multi-face machining and multi-axis machining. But why not go for another Tornos? Is it really just down to the size of the machine and the bar capacity?
Yeah, definitely it's the capacity. We still have a requirement for much larger parts made out of much larger bar than what you can get sliding head machines in. So we currently run up to 2-inch bar, sometimes actually 65 as well. So.
And you did have previously single spindle turning. Now you've gone to the twin spindle on the fixed head. Has that made much of a difference? Has that improved productivity? Again, is this another stamp on the successes of your business in being able to maintain that level of production for your customers?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, being able to have one hit machining for a range of bar sizes, all the way down from sort of 3mm all the way up to 65, 70 mil, is a fantastic thing to be able to give your customers. You know, where previously we were having a multi operation parts in larger diameters due to the equipment we had, but with the Belia coming in, obviously we're getting all our parts finished in one operation. They're coming off finished, so the payback on that is fantastic.
And it's quite interesting because you mentioned about the parts previously where you were having to do them, you move them from operation to operation. There was also deburring involved in that, but now that's all being done on the Belia machine. You've got 15 tools on the turret on this machine, haven't you? So that's really opened up. That's given you more flexibility in how to create the components, isn't it? And the workflow almost of the job.
Yes, definitely. Obviously, having 15 tools on a turret is very beneficial. You can give lots of live tool capability on that machine. And like you said, the parts come off fully deburred because we can have those extra deburring tools on there. So there is no more handling on that part. In high volume, which is not what you want to do when you're making 3,000-4,000 of one component. You don't want to have to be deburring those by hand.
And am I right in saying there's about 40 kilowatts of power on that Belia machine?
Yeah, on the main spindle, peak power is approaching 40 kilowatts, which is so it's a bit of a beast of a spindle, really.
It is incredible technology there. Right, onto the milling before we conclude this podcast, Alex. You Brother Machining Centres, BBT 30 machines. You've got 3 of them now. We came here, I think, when you had 1. They've obviously made a difference to your production on milling. What would you have to say about the Speedio product?
I think personally they are probably one of the best machines for aluminium component machining. The productivity that you can get out of the BT30 spindle is basically unsurpassed by anything else on the market. The rapids, the tool changes, a combination of everything, and not only are they fast, the accuracies are far superior than our previous machines, and surface finishes, everything. So
is there a possibility that you could have halved cycle times with these machines?
Definitely. I mean, pretty much most components in aluminium that we've put on the Brother machines, we've halved from the previous BT40 machine that we were machining them on. Because
I always think as well, when you're machining on these machines, we see them moving around, but if you're cutting a lot of swarf, do you ever have any problems with having to retreat and get rid of swarf out of jobs? Are these factors you have to put in now when you're cutting so much metal so quickly, that removal element?
It is, yeah. I mean, obviously, the machines do have quite a good swarf management system as standard with chip wash and bed flush and everything like that, and high pressure coolant. But we're making a serious amount of swarf at the moment on these machines, and
they're also multi-axis. You've also got the 5-axis units on them as well, so you can do multi-face machining, 5-sided machining. That must just add to what you can offer.
Absolutely. Being able to offer 5-face machining reduces setup time and reduces handling time between operations that we were previously doing, and obviously we pass that benefit on to our customers in a cost reduction and also the shortened lead time, and it's definitely the way to go. And the way we've got our machines configured, we have the 5-axis table up one end, and we've still got a decent amount of bed space left on the machine to fix your 3-axis vices.
Because those Speedios 700, I think, is the bed length, so they've got very much gone from that mill drill tap machine to a vertical machining centre now, haven't they? Now, your next purchase, which isn't here yet as we speak, but probably will be in a week or two's time, from White House Machine Tools again, we've got an AvaX horizontal machining centre. Now, we don't, and I know we've had this conversation before this podcast, we don't see too many horizontals out there, certainly not as many as verticals, and possibly 5-axis as well. Sometimes surprises us at MTD because they are such workhorses, such production cells. Is that the reason you've gone for this AvaX machine, Alex? Just to go one step further to make those parts, or to keep the spindle running, really?
Absolutely. I mean, making the jump from vertical machining centres up to a horizontal multi-pallet machine is the next step up for sort of our volume production. It's something that we've had in the pipeline for a while now, and obviously given the how our order demand from the medical industry during these times, basically it's brought that to a head, and we've decided to go for it now.
So what will you be able to do? Load one pallet up, it will be machining, you'll be setting the other pallet, so you'll be able to go home at maybe 5-6 in the evening if you're lucky, and you'll get another 4 or 5 hours out of the second pallet. That's the difference here, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's keeping the spindle uptime, well into the 90%, whereas, versus a single table machine, a vertical, you're going to spend half the shift probably loading and unloading the components. Whereas
there's so much dead time on VMCs. We see it everywhere we go. In fact, there is a statistic out there. A VMC can be less than 40% efficient in terms of its spindle runtime. But as you say, you can get this up to 90 here. But you can go beyond that as well, I believe, Alex, because with the AvaX machines from White House Machine Tools, you can actually add pallets to the pallet, or add a pallet pool to the machine, so you can increase the amount of kind of tombstones you've got with parts set. But then in turn, people might say, well, I need more tools. Well, you can add more tools as well. You can add to the tool capacity. These are options that were in the mix for you and really pushed you in this direction, weren't they?
They were indeed. Obviously, make an investment in a machine, it needs to be flexible, and it needs to be able to sort of grow with our business as we do. There's not many horizontal machining centres on the market that offer the flexibility of what the AvaX machine is going to offer us. So we've taken a standard configuration 2-pallet machine with 80 tools, and then in the future, when we need to, we can expand the machine to a 6-pallet with up to 220 tools if need be, and that can all be done on our site within 1 to 2 days. And obviously, the cost of adding that is nowhere near the cost of buying a whole additional machine.
What's the education going to be like, though, going from the vertical environment to the horizontal? You've got a few guys out in the machine shop at the moment. I'm sure pretty astute guys, well versed on machining technologies. But talk to me about how you're going to change the programming, how you're going to change to put the parts through the production cycle. Because now you're not going to have to set the part between operations, are you? Is it going to be quite a simple journey to learn? Yeah,
we're hoping so. I mean, obviously, once we've got our high volume repeat work set and fixtured, obviously it will just be a matter of loading the fixture and changing the program and loading the material in, and off we go. So I mean, obviously with any sort of palletized machine, initially is where your big time expense is when you first have the machine, getting the jobs programmed, fixtured and set up and the tools in. But once they're in there, the beauty of having pallets and a large capacity tool changers, you can leave it all in there, all set. You can leave the programs in the memory, and basically you can just pick and choose what you want to make on what day.
When you watch stuff that we do, and of course other, when you research your engineering and your machining, how big is automation now, and how important is it for you, in your opinion, for your company, but not just for your company, for industry on a whole here in the UK? How important do you think automation is?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the future of manufacturing, not just in the UK, but probably globally. We've looked over the last few years at how we can automate things that we are doing that aren't, that are very labour intensive. So we started off with simple things like bar feeders on fixed head lathes. Then we talked sliding head. Obviously that good level of automation on sliding head. They run lights out. They run on their own, unmanned, throughout large shifts, and then now what we're looking to do on the mill side is do the same, automate that. So obviously the AvaX is coming in as a pallet machine, obviously two to start with. In the future will be 6, And then, but yeah, I mean, obviously that's what everyone's trying to do. The more unmanned hours you can get out, and the longer you can keep the spindle uptime, the spindle running throughout the shift, the better, really. And that is the future, because obviously as more and more companies invest in that style of technology and that style of manufacturing, if you're still making things in the traditional way of having one person standing in front of one machine, loading it and unloading it, you're just not going to be competitive.
If you were having to do what you need to do now in your production 2 years ago with the plant that you had, would you be able to cope?
Absolutely not, no. When I look at the level of production we're doing currently, to think where we were sort of 3-4 years ago without the investments in what we've done, we certainly would not have been able to cope.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Alex, for the invitation here today. That's been a fascinating podcast here at CTPE. We're travelling the country at the moment talking to engineers